and Bianculli. You guys see him on your screen, live from the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm studios. They are the official partner of Birds 365, and they're the partner of the guest line. Let's go to our guest line right now. We got the legendary, the great, the one and only Chris Franklin set to join us right here on Birds 365. He joins us now. You can follow him at C Franklin News and read all his work at NJ.com. Chris, it's great to see you on a Monday morning, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, guys. This is Combine Week. Next step to the new season coming up. So I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Would be better without the 18 inches of snow outside my window, Chris, but it is something. You got to get through it. We'll get through it. But if anybody wants to drop some humanitarian aid, I'm up for it, because I'm not going to be able to get any milk or eggs over the next few hours. Athletes first. I don't know when you popped on. I was trying to look. Reed Blankenship changed agents, and he went with athletes first. Before the start of last season, when we thought maybe he's a guy the Eagles would try to extend, didn't happen. Didn't have the best season. Now it's one of those questions. So we'll start it there with you as we head towards the combine, Chris. You got to think about free agency first, and that's where the foundational stuff gets done in this league. It's sort of a convention with the agents and executives. That's a tough one, Reed Blankenship. You don't have a lot of depth at safety. Didn't have a great year. Got to have a walk-away number. Where are you with Reed Blankenship, Chris Franklin?
I think we're at the point where no matter what, he's going to test the market. I think there, because this is going to be the best week coming up with all the rumors, because the agents have to be certified there and all that. They have their meeting, blah, 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 blah. So I wouldn't be surprised if, randomly walking down the hall or at the JW Marriott, they go, you see Reed's agents go, hey, Howie, what's going on? Hey, how you doing? And there's something done behind the scenes. But the way that it's set up, and I know free agency is first, the draft to me is also another area where you look and go, okay, there's some depth there. So the Eagles have leverage in that end. But if you want somebody, especially Vic, and this is why I love Vic Fangio, because he's open and honest about this stuff, and you know how much that he wants him back there. That's where you think, like, the agent go, like, all right, we know this here. I think if something eventually, he's one of the guys. He is one of the guys, at least I think, that something gets done. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if more to a short term in, maybe like a 2 years with that. But it'll look like a 4 or 5 years, like 4 or 5 years. Yeah, for Reed Blankenship. When you look at the contract, it might be something like 2. He's a guy I think that could come back. And what have we done? If they're looking to a win now thing, which I think they should be, because this window is open still, I think he's a guy that comes back and you utilize that short term viability. And if it doesn't work out after the 2 years and you're fresh out, you still draft a safety this year or the following year, and you move on from there.
What's your walkaway number on Reed? You got one, Chris? What do you think the Eagles should be, the walkaway number? Just to give you some context, Spotrac has the market value at 7.2, but I think they've been a little low, Chris. I think that's a little low.
They're lowballing everybody over.
Yeah, they are. They have Jaelan Phillips 17, so I'm not buying their numbers that much, but I'm just giving it to you for the sake of context.
I think it's something around 9-10, and that's it, because once again, that veteran thing, the veteran leadership thing, and also just the going rate of veteran safeties now that play that center field role. I think that's, with looking at that in the production, and then they're going to sell, and other teams are looking for services like that. They're going to sell, well, he's a Super Bowl champion, and he knows how to win and all that stuff. So somebody's going to throw a number out.
Somebody will buy into that.
Yeah,
sure. Super Bowl winning safety, Chris Franklin.
Yep. That buys you an extra $1 million somehow, somewhere, every time.
It does, and maybe it should. I mean, maybe it should, because a million's a million. But we're going to talk about multiple millions before we get to the draft and the combine with Jaelan Phillips. Now, there's a guy who I think could cash in with his age, hitting free agency. Very rarely do you have a player like that at that age hit free agency in the open market. Again, we've seen some crazy low numbers from certain places, 18 million. I think it's 18 million. The Eagles run to get that thing done. I think it's going way over 20 million. Where are you with Jaelan Phillips? And if you don't get Jaelan Phillips back, doesn't that all of a sudden turn edge rusher into a big, big, big need again?
And I think they're going to get that big, big need because there's the fact that when you hear all these guys like Bradley Chubb and Max Crosby and all that stuff, and you look at all the needs for all the different teams, it's about legit 20, 22 teams that really need an edge rusher. You can always say every team could always go, oh, I need an edge rusher because of the pass rush thing. No, there's legit that many teams that could use like a top tier, like a number one type on that. And so I think that's the point where I think it's going to price the Eagles out the market. I wouldn't be surprised if, like I say, a team like the Titans with all that cap space, like something like 100 million or 90, the Titans, even down a little bit down south, like the Commanders, they have a lot of cap space too, and they need to revamp that defense in the worst possible way, not only just to get defense better, but probably to keep that seat cool under Dan Quinn. That's another place I look like that could throw that money around. So it's going to be the point where I think we're talking about, wow, this is a neat area of need right now. And when you get to that point now, you're looking around and it's like, it ain't, unless you do a trade with some of those picks, and even then it may not be that, to get a veteran guy in here that's on like a cost control thing that you know what you're going to get and that can have an impact. I think we're going to be talking this until April, and then you're hoping something happens during the draft.
Ooh, how do you think the third round pick factors into it? And the fact that the Eagles already gave up a third round pick to get Jaelan Phillips. Do you think that revision turns into, well, what are we going to do if we want to go out on the trade market to get a Max Crosby, just for an example? Then you got to pay more money, and you got to pay more draft capital to bring in a player like that. Do you think that factors into how he's thinking?
I think, in fact, like if depending on the production of the player, and you look at Jaelan Phillips and you're like, yeah, he was productive during his time here. I think Max Crosby is just in a different tier, a higher tier when it comes to that. That's not a slight to Jaelan Phillips. It's not, and that's definitely not a slight against Jaelan Phillips. It's just like there's certain guys like Parsons, Crosby, they're just that top echelon that I think that changes the calculus a little bit in what they do in terms of trying to get guys. So when looking at that, I think maybe the whole Myles Garrett thing too, his name's always come up because the Eagles just talk about the Eagles stuff. I don't think any of those are happening. I think Max Crosby stays in Raiders. I think there's a lot more talk. I think Crosby stays with the Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett still stays with the Browns, what have you. But
I saw this weekend the Raiders are looking for a Micah Parsons type deal. I'm like, huh? Yeah, I get a Micah Parsons type deal for Max Crosby, but hey, maybe that's what they think. I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to try that, and no matter what deal, they're going to try. They're going to say, "Oh, we want 2 firsts." I can see it right now. We want 2 firsts for Max Crosby. Not happening. Well, can you give us a first, please? Nah. Well, we'll think about it. Well,
Yeah, right.
Okay, we'll be fine with a second. We'll just be fine with a second. All right, get that. Like that's something that would be perfect for everybody.
Oh,
but
man,
I just don't know.
Negotiation. If they go from 2 firsts to a second,
they would be pissed. That's unless Max Crosby comes out not through behind the scenes with the agents. We're going like, well, he may want to leave. Wink, wink. Nudge. Restructure again, or it goes, all right, yeah, no. Unless he flat out goes on one of these shows, or he puts something like the cryptic. Like I don't know, like a wings behind him, like leaving out, flying away somewhere else, what have you. Then I think he's coming. I think he goes back to like that. He has to force his way out, and I think he has to go out publicly and say, "I no longer want to be a Raider," and I don't think he's going to do that.
Speaking of force their way out, where are you on the AJ Brown scale? I have a 50-50 scale, so I've been going back and forth. 52-48, he's staying. 52-48, he's going. I've now moved it to 53-47, he's going. Chris Franklin, where are you with AJ Brown? Do you think everything is copacetic in this little sort of tour and saying, everybody's excited, everybody's on the right, or that's, hey, look, we'll move you, but you got to play ball because if not, we're not going to get value. And then you know how he's like a dog with a bone. He's not giving people up, especially good players. So he needs value in return. Where are you with AJ Brown and if he's going to be a Philadelphia Eagle in September?
I'm at the 75-80% he's going to be an Eagle. I still think that.
Wow.
I still thought because I like, and I'm not a spokesperson for AJ Brown. I'm not in his mind, but he's one of those. He's just one of those guys when he's not going away with the offense and stuff like that. It's for not so much like you sort of wish sometimes like that. I want the ball. If any receiver didn't want the ball, then you say that. I think it was more frustration. Like, why am I running a hitch here? Why am I running a hitch here? Oh no, what do you know? It's third down. We're running a hitch here. Oh, I know. I wake up and go to brush my teeth. I get a call from Capitola. Run a hitch. Like,
by the way,
I think it was one of the things.
Did you see Jason Kelsey trolling people with some Sean Mannion film? And the first play he showed was a hitch route.
That was good.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That was
I
absolutely awesome.
I see that now. But I look at it as one of those things. Like, I think it's frustration. I think he still deep down kind of wants to be here. I think he wanted a different situation, different schematically to happen as well too. I know everybody's saying like, well, you look after June 1st, you can trade him, and it's a lot less and all that stuff. I think it's just one. I think he's at the point now where he's going to give it a shot to see these changes that have been made. And I think when we look up at that opening game, whoever the Eagles are playing that week, we'll see him lined up on week 1. And yeah, it's to me, it almost in a way. It's almost like the Allen Iverson thing. It's not to the point where I think he and Nick are like can't get along or whatever. They're two passionate people that, when you throw those two things together, then you get that spark sometimes. But it reminds me of the Allen Iverson thing where you have that where he was almost traded to the Pistons that year, and everybody's talking about, oh, he's almost gone to the Sixers. And the next thing you know, you see what they did in 2001, and granted, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but you saw that run they made. So I think when all said and done, you'll see that thing like, hey, remember the time AJ Brown talks were all he was traded, blah, 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 again. I think it'll be something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. Chris, we just mentioned it with Reed Blankenship, but quite a bit of free agents, and the free agency class isn't all that good. Jaelan Phillips is the headliner for the Eagles, maybe not only for the Eagles. He's one of the top free agents out there. What's your thought on Jaelan Phillips? Should the Eagles sign him? What should the walkaway number be on Jaelan Phillips, if there is one, or are you no holds barred, bring him back? Where are you on the Jaelan Phillips, off season with him returning to the Eagles or potentially not returning to the Eagles?
I think I'd run if they can get something to work done. That's something around the 25-ish range.
Yeah,
I'm at that point where I'm
cashing in, man. Cashing in.
Here's the problem, though.
JP.
You look at his age. You got the injury concerns too. Like I know you got the injury concerns. Okay, that's valid. That's warrant. I just look at the fact that teams are going to say we need an edge rusher. He's young enough. He's still relatively young, and so many teams need an edge rusher that tampering period, those first few days, it's going to me. It feels like it's going to be like the Milton Williams thing. Like, oh, he's going this one. Right. Oh, he's going this one. Yeah, he's this one. Next thing you know, you're like,
right, yeah.
And you're looking like, how did he get like 34, 35? Like, and by then it's like, well, we got the comp pick for next year. Hey, okay, you got that. But it's if they can get something long term that can maybe you work out with the base and go, listen, and we know how well this organization, like how they do the contract stuff like that. Like, hey, listen, it may not be as big of a bump that first year sign bonus, but we'll look at this one here. We'll form it so that it won't just like cut you after 2-3 years, and you still get a decent amount of guaranteed money, what have you. It's going to take some creativity, I think. They're not going to use a franchise tag, in my opinion. They're not going to use a transition tag because that thing, I don't know why, just get rid of that. It's still there somehow.
Well, the league might pay him $25 million, Chris, but should the Eagles?
Out of desperation, yeah. Because I know you got Miller Smith and J-Lux Hunt. This team does well when you have 4 legitimate edge rushing threats. And he was your most productive edge rusher through that. It was like 8-9 games. He was 8-9 games. He was here. He was your most productive guy. And you look at just overall, when you have that productive guy on the edge on this team with Jalen Carter, and if you have Jordan Davis continues to play the way that he has, You look at you got those odd man fronts, or you get a rush. This team is really tough to stop. And oh yeah, we could blitz one of the linebackers up the middle. You know, up the B gap with the matter if it's John Fitzpatrick or Zach Ball. It just creates so many different with the issues with the protections and stuff for other teams to try to figure out. Okay, how do we slide the line? This needs to get. This is almost the same thing like we talked about when we had Hassan Reddick here, and we were talking about this. He's the type of guy that you need in this defense to really make it effective for Vic and to lessen off some of those things. For me, I know it's not. I know we haven't talked about anything like this for it. I'm looking at the Denzel Ward thing a little bit more because if he gets released, you add him to the second thing. You mean to tell me if you have competent edge rushing ability up front from that side, and now all of a sudden you tell your secondary guys, hey, just cover for 4 seconds. Now, also, you look at this defensive line a whole lot different, and this team is 2024-ish type defensively with the level, all 3 levels being as productive as they could. So, yeah, you need to have them. You gotta.
Here's my problem with Denzel Ward. That's an interesting name. Obviously, very good player. Still only 28 years old. And I don't know where he is career-wise. I haven't looked at how well he played for Cleveland. Played a lot of football. Even though he's only 28, he's been playing since 2018. So there's some tread off the tire. But I would think, he's a 5-time Pro Bowl player. I would think he's going to get some money. And how do you bring in Denzel Ward as a number 2 corner when you got 2 corners who are on their cost-effective deals, and this guy's making $12 million. Let's just throw $12 million out there, and all of a sudden Quinion and Cooper are sitting there. Now they can't even be extended, but still, that's political. That's tough from a political aspect, Chris.
That's the part I was going to go to because Ward's a guy I go to the 2 years because you got to get those extensions, and they're going to get a lot of money. Even with Coop. Even though he's a nickel corner, he's going to get outside corner money because he's just that effective. I think that this is why I think overall, again, almost similar to what I was saying about the Commanders, Dan Quinn. I think this is a time when you got a couple years left for Sirianni here and his defense, and even with Vic having him at the helm because we hear the retirement things here and there. You need to take advantage of this window, and we all know how general managers thinking like those 3-year increments. You're looking at how long can I get this effective? That's the type of move where you look and you add it in there. That just enhances your 3-year window. And while you have some of your guys still playing at the prime, still having everything else like that. So I look at that as like, you know what? He might be making more now. Those guys know already. I mean, especially the way Quinion's of the awards he got this year, he knows he's going to get paid big time. And even with the option and what have you and stuff have you, he's going to get paid as a top 5 corner. So you can lie it. You can pacify that by knowing that, hey, we can't do anything right now. League tells us now, you're a big part of this defense coming up. And the caps keep increasing because that's another thing I think too, that you can, if you're trying to make some of these deals more that you can be a little bit more aggressive now. If the NFL decides to nuke that current their media deals, which they have every right they can, I think next year, you can get more money. You're going to get more money from the NBCs, the Netflixes. You're going to get YouTube trying to come in a little bit more.
Oh, they're going to.
That salary cap will keep going and going and going. You saw the jump this year. It's going to happen again. So you see this now, and you're like, okay, maybe we can be a little bit more aggressive now, knowing that we got more salary cap money coming in the next few years because of these new deals. So it's walking a fine line. And this is where it's good to have intel in the front office, in the NFL front office, going like, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, you hear something? Okay, you go from there."
Chris, another fine line that we're walking this offseason is the tight end position. I mean, there's nobody. I'm looking around. Is there a tight end in Philly right now? I mean, Cam Latu, you got EJ Jenkins, you got a couple guys out there, but who's out there? How many catches do they have combined? So my question for you, Chris, is how do you view that position if you're the Eagles right now from the Chris Franklin lens? I mean, you got Goedert, who's over 30 and a free agent. They took a pay cut last year to come back. Does Goedert hold that against him? Does he want to go to the open market? Maybe. Do you pay Goedert? And if you don't pay Goedert, I mean, what's the solution? You don't need just one. I mean, especially with this new offense, right? The Sean Mannion on. You're going to need tight ends. How do you see the tight end position where it stands right now, and what do you think the best way moving forward is for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think Goedert would be nice. He might be too expensive, and there's also thing that's another position. I'm not for him. I'm not going to throw too much money at him because he same things we talk about every time we comes Goedert. Injury concerns. You don't know his availability. He's also another year older. Even though he has a touchdown production that he had this year, and you're hoping that, and I think one of those teams that are out there, like you're wondering one year that's going to like, oh, look at how many touchdowns he had. Here's a big contract. He's still an effective tight end. The way I would probably go, I get a guy like, say, John Fitzpatrick out of Green Bay. I know he's coming off of losing Achilles or whatever. He's your blocking guy. He knows the system. You bring him in. That takes one. You draft a tight end, either the second or the third round. I think that's the way. I'm not using a first round pick on a tight end in this draft. I think you need to address the offensive line, given the Lane Johnson thinking about
Max
retiring
Claren.
the next couple of years.
That's everybody loves
That's
him.
the one. Max Claren. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I heard it. Yep. The Daniel Jeremiah. Yep. That was the one.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a guy like that who you think about it in the way you look at the film and then you look at everything else. It's almost like Dallas Goedert again. I think he's a really good receiving tight end. He runs. I like the way he runs those seam routes and those crossing patterns, which are vital in that offense, in the Shanahan offense. I like the way he does that. So now you have Claire. He can be. You don't need to thrust upon him too much upon him, because at least especially when it comes to the blocking game, like you just don't passing wise. I feel like he can be good enough. You can plug him in, and if they don't sign Goedert, plug him in. You got that. This offense uses a lot of two tight end sets anyway. Like I'd probably say like a third of the snaps are like two tight end sets anyway. Like when you're looking at if you look at the Shanahan the Shanahan scheme. So now you have Fitzpatrick that can, as Claire develops or whatever tight end they draft develops a little bit more in his blocking way. At least you have Fitzpatrick. If you got a guy like that who's a really good blocking tight end for the Packers, at least he'd be your second guy. You can leave him in the block, let Claire run his routes and do his thing, and allow the tight ends coach to work with him more, his blocking on more. Then you can hopefully get a little bit better that way too. But I'd draft a guy day two, sign a veteran tight end who's got better blocking prowess. Because also one thing, when you look at the Shanahan thing, they need that outside zone run. They need somebody to hold the edge. And we saw that way that the tight ends did last year. There's issue. So that would be my plan, especially if Goedert comes back and say like a very team friendly deal, then I'll bring him back. And I just don't know if he's going to get. I think he's going to get a nice size contract. So it might be the time for him to move on if somebody pays him a lot of money.
Yeah, that's tough because he's 31. So I don't know how many people are going to give him big money, but he's also got to feel bad producing 13 touchdowns for the team that made him take a $4 million pay cut. So that's a difficult one. That may be the most difficult one for me personally is Nakobe Dean, only because you couldn't ask for more on or off the field. Dude is awesome. Everything about him. But I don't see how you keep him, Chris. You can't go another year with Jahad Campbell sitting on the bench. You can't. And I have good depth. Trott's there for depth and Smile Munden. And you have the injury concerns with Nakobe, which are real. There any way they can keep Nakobe Dean, and would that be a poor decision? Because if he's here and he's at Vick's disposal, he's playing. Period. Vick loves him, and you're keeping Jahad Campbell for 2 of his 4 years. He played 6 games, and he was great, by the way, in the first 6-7 games of the season. Do you just rip the Band-Aid off because we got to get Jahad Campbell on the field?
See, this team didn't have as many needs as it does, and need to allocate at certain positions like we talked about before, edge rusher. I'd seriously think about it. I just don't know if you can fit them in. And you can, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I know you have that legitimately will be wasting at least 2 years of Jahad Campbell's career. I know I got the 5th-year option in my back pocket if I need to use it. It's there, so I can at least know I got 3 more years of control after that. So I'm like, it's to the point. I just don't know there's any room to go and do that because, like you mentioned, I think Jeremiah Trotter is a really good linebacker, and the time he spent there, you see him increasing. So you just don't want to give that away. I mean, he's a good depth piece there, and then I know Smile Mondi and stuff like that. But is your 4th linebacker? Yeah, I'd say it's time. I think they knew going into this year this probably was going to be the last, no matter what. The thing I worry about is, and it's like, it's one of those things I think a lot of people see, even in your workplace, whatever, when you got the people looking at the spreadsheet and they go, that's a big number. We just can move away and move, or that could be a big number or a bigger number. You move away, you don't know the other value that he brings, not necessarily to the field when it comes to the leadership role, when it comes to the intangibles, when it comes to the reading, that all that stuff. So that's the part that gives me pause. I'm like, you're losing something there in terms of that leadership and that believability off the thing. But unfortunately, I think it might be time where you just don't have the assets to move on from him. I mean, you have to. Unfortunately, you hope Christian Parker and the Cowboys don't sign him because I think that's a legit.
I'll tell you where, and they have no money. I think they're $40 million over the cap. But if Nakobe Dean goes with Brian Flores, look out, because
he's going to Dallas with Christian Parker is where I think he's going.
He turned Eric Wilson into a player, blitzing. And Nakobe Dean, I think, was the best blitzer in football from the second level last year. Yeah. And he didn't get to do it here. And he won't get to do it with Christian Parker. That's my point.
I know.
He'll get to do it.
If he goes to Flores, that would be a good fit. You're right.
But they have no money. But boy, I would love to see it because he is a hell of a player. And I think if you let him do more of what he can do, I think, the ceiling is tremendously high, but I don't know how the Eagles could keep him. And hopefully Jahad Campbell plays as well as he did those first 7 games. And I think then you're fine. I mean, then you're not worried about anything other than losing a good player, which you never like to do. But that's where the draft comes into it. Now, Chris, the combine will get a lot of hype. And as we mentioned, the most important things of the combine are the things you don't see on television. That's the health checks and all the behind-the-scenes stuff, as we talked about with agents and executives laying the foundation for deals in free agency. But when you do look at the draft, and a lot of it obviously depends on what they do with AJ. Do they get Jaelan Phillips? That's 1A and 1B to me. The Eagles have to make those decisions, and that shifts it. But let's say AJ's back because you think he's going to be back, and they get Jaelan Phillips back. If that's the case, you take wide receiver and edge rusher out of the equation. Where you leaning towards first round, 23rd pick overall. If you got a player, give me a player, but position first and then player second if you got one.
I think you definitely have to go offensive line. It is boring. It's the whole eat your vegetable.
Everybody hates it, but I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
And the guy I'm really growing on, and I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm just going to say Max. He's the kid out of Arizona State. He's the offensive tackle. I like him because he's already a right tackle to begin with. I don't like I think you can draft guys that play left or right. I think it takes a lot of time in terms of trying to play from one side to another. The thing with him is he can not only play right tackle, he can play left tackle. A little bit bigger guy, which I know goes against the grain about the whole system, schematic things, but he can move and he's nasty. I like his nastiness. That when you see him get into that pass set, you see that whole forceful thing. I like that out of him when it comes. The thing is, he's still kind of raw too. And the reason why I think this will be a good fit is if you draft him, you know you got Lane for at least minimum one more year. You let him sit, you let him learn. I don't think he's the type of guy. I know they're going to cross-train because they do this for all their backups. I don't think he's the type of guy that you could plug in right away to be a guard or what have you, but I would have him there to sit back and learn. And then eventually when he comes in there, say if there's an injury to Mailata, he can go to the left side easy, but primarily he's going to play the right side. And then if Lane decides after this year, hey, you know what, I'm done. you can just plug him in. He has a year, he learned from him, and you move on from there. But I think that's a guy, or that's the guy I would go to. But I think overall position, a right tackle, just not even right tackle, offensive lineman would be the way I would go in this draft. You just need to. And the good thing is deep with that around there.
I'm going the same way, and I'm going to piss people off even more if I throw the name Blake Miller out. What says Chris Franklin?
That was it was going back and forth with him. I just look at the more.
He's athletic
to me. I know
if you're going to ask guys to reach block in this wide zone stretch scheme, Blake Miller's your guy. That's my opinion.
He's up there. Like he if he's on the board, and for me, if Max was gone, I think he'd still be on the board. Both of them still be on the board by then. I still lean Max more a little bit more because I know he has to reach block and them too. You can teach. The good thing is if they do go around, you can teach run blocking. I have questions about his run blocking a little bit more out there in space. I think he's a really good pass blocker. I like that, which is important, especially to throw the ball around. I wonder if you're going to run that a little bit more. I still see some things and some elements of him where he needs to refine some stuff, and that's where coaching can come in and change that. So I like that. But overall, I think
Chris Cooper, baby. Chris Cooper.
Nah, I'm